Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the program. It's Wednesday, September 16th, coming to you live from our studio in Seoul. I'm Kim Mo-kyeon. Before we get started, these are the stories we're following at the top of the hour. Days after AstraZeneca's COVID-19 vaccine was put on temporary hold due to signs of serious side effects, another biopharmaceutical company, Pfizer, also reported mild to moderate side effects from the vaccine it's trialing. South Korea's Unification Minister Lee In-young is visiting the inter-Korean truce village of Panmunjom for the first time since taking office. He will hold a press briefing at the truce village, the site where the leaders of the two Koreas held their historic talks in 2018. And a historic diplomatic agreement has been reached between Israel and two Gulf nations, the United Arab Emirates and Bahrain. Dubbed the Abraham Accord, the agreement formalizes the normalization of Jewish states' relations with Arab nations. Now we start with the COVID-19 situation here in South Korea. The country reported 113 new COVID-19 cases Wednesday, staying in the low 100s for the fourth straight day. Local transmissions rose back to triple digits to 105, with an additional 8 from overseas, bringing the total number of cases to over 22,500. No new deaths have been reported, with the death toll standing at 367. Microsoft founder Bill Gates says he thinks the COVID-19 pandemic could end by 2022 if vaccines are distributed by early next year. In an interview with The Telegraph, Gates said the current situation could be overcome within the next 2 years, claiming vaccines will likely be available globally by next summer. He said that even with the distribution of just 60% of the vaccines, the spread should be slowed considerably. Gates said that if appropriate countermeasures are not taken, the number of deaths worldwide could rise in the latter half of this year. Around a week ago, AstraZeneca's COVID-19 vaccine was put on temporary hold due to signs of serious side effects. Now, while the trial is back on, Pfizer's vaccine also reported mild side effects. Other companies manufacturing vaccines have also been affected by the news. Our Kim Do-yeon reports.
It's been a week since AstraZeneca reported adverse reactions during COVID-19 vaccine trial, and Pfizer also reported mild to moderate side effects from the vaccine it is trialing. According to Pfizer's executives, over 12,000 participants have received a second dose. Over 29,000 volunteers have already been chosen, and the goal is to have 44,000, while the company is closely analyzing the safety and tolerability of the vaccine. During the study, an independent data monitoring committee could recommend a pause at any time. While AstraZeneca's resumed its trials on Monday, the news still affected people worldwide. Some of Johnson & Johnson's volunteers worried about the side effects have quit. However, the company claimed the situation is under control.
Still, it hasn't affected us much because a number of the volunteers, particularly in the 18 to 55 age group, have left us with enough reserve volunteers.
The firm's Belgian unit began its phase 2 of trials in Spain this week. The company aims to test 60,000 people globally in phase 3 and include people from all walks of life. In the meantime, China could have a vaccine ready for the public as early as November, according to an official with the Chinese Center for Disease Control and Prevention. She said the current phase 3 of the clinical trials were proceeding smoothly, and 3 of the country's vaccines have already been offered to essential workers under an emergency use program launched in July. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
South Korea's Unification Minister Lee In-young will visit the inter-Korean truce village of Panmunjom this morning for the first time since he took office in July. He will tour major Panmunjom facilities, including the South Korea-controlled Freedom House and Peace House, and the footbridge and the joint security area. He also plans to hold a press conference at the truce village amid speculation that he may send a message to the regime ahead of the second anniversary of the 2018 Pyongyang Joint Declaration on September 19th. The new leader of Japan's Liberal Democratic Party, Yoshihide Suga, is expected to be appointed as the country's new prime minister in the coming hours. There will be a vote in the LDP majority-led parliament, paving the way for Suga's confirmation. Suga is expected to serve until September 2021, the end of his predecessor Shinzo Abe's original term. He has said he will conduct a cabinet reshuffle focused on serving the public. U.S. President Donald Trump has presided over the signing of a historic diplomatic agreement between Israel and two Gulf nations. It's hoped the Abraham Accord will lead to a badly needed era of peace in the Middle East. Our Lee Seung-jae reports.
Hundreds of people gathered on the south lawn of the White House on Tuesday to witness the signing of a historic agreement between Israel, the United Arab Emirates, and Bahrain. Dubbed the Abraham Accord, the deal formalizes the normalization of the Jewish state's relations with the Arab nations. At the U.S. brokered ceremony, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu signed agreements with Emirati Foreign Minister Sheikh Abdullah bin Zayed Al Nahyan and Bahrain's Foreign Minister Abdulatif Al Zayani. President Trump said the agreement could pave way for other countries to follow suit.
These agreements prove that the nations of the region are breaking free from the failed approaches of the past. Today's signing sets history on a new course, and there will be other countries very, very soon that will follow these great leaders.
The three Middle East nations also expressed their hope for peace with the accord.
Blessings of the peace we make today will be enormous. First, because this peace will eventually expand to include other Arab states, and ultimately, it can end the Arab-Israeli conflict once and for all.
And as for us in the United Arab Emirates, this accord will enable us to continue to stand by the Palestinian people and realize their hopes for an independent state within a stable and prosperous region.
What was only dreamed of a few years ago is now achievable, and we can see before us a golden opportunity for peace, security, and prosperity for our region.
However, the accord does not address the decades-long Israeli-Palestinian conflict. While the UAE, Bahrain, and other Arab nations support the Palestinians, the Trump administration has persuaded the UAE and Bahrain to not let that prevent them from having normal ties with Israel. While the agreements won't end any active wars, supporters believe it could pave the way for a broader Arab-Israeli rapprochement after decades of conflict. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, while the Abraham Accord was being signed, Palestinian militants expressed their anger by firing two rockets into Israel, wounding two people. Israeli officials said one of the rockets was intercepted by their air defense system, but the other one hit the southern city of Ashdod. The Palestinians deemed the agreement by the UAE and Bahrain as a betrayal, as it breaks decades of consensus within the Arab world that an Israeli-Palestinian peace deal should be the first step in establishing ties with a Jewish state. In fact, the AFP reported that hundreds of protesters gathered on the streets of Gaza to show their discontent over the accord on Tuesday, local time. The global trade watchdog has sided with China, ruling against the Trump administration's tariffs that were imposed on Chinese goods in 2018. The decision is seen as a blow to Washington's trade war against Beijing. Our Kim Hyo-sun has the details.
The World Trade Organization has ruled that Washington's tariffs imposed a couple of years ago on $200 billion worth of Chinese goods are illegal. Tuesday's ruling by the WTO's dispute settlement body is the first time it has ruled against tariffs imposed by the Trump administration. The panel explained that the U.S. violated international trade rules by slapping tariffs on Chinese goods. It also ruled against Washington's argument that Beijing has wrongly engaged in practices harmful to America's interests on a range of issues, such as intellectual property theft and technology transfer. The comment immediately drew criticism from U.S. Trade Representative Robert Lighthizer, who said Washington had presented, quote, extensive evidence of China's intellectual property breaches, and the WTO failed to address the issue. He added that the Trump administration will not let Beijing use the WTO to take advantage of American workers, businesses, and farmers. Beijing's Commerce Ministry said the ruling was, quote, objective and fair, calling for Washington to respect it. Under WTO rules, the U.S. has 60 days to appeal. But it remains to be seen whether the WTO can give out its final verdict, as its appellate body cannot function currently as it does not have a quorum to operate, as the U.S. has blocked the appointment of its members. Kim Yo-san, Arirang News.
Apple has unveiled its latest lineup of iPads and its new Apple Watch. The company hopes the products, packed with state-of-the-art technology, will be right up consumer street, especially considering the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. Our Kim Jae-hee has the story.
Apple revealed its latest gadgets and services to the world on Tuesday, including the Apple Watch Series 6, a new iPad Air, and the 8th generation iPad. Apple did not announce any new iPhones during the virtual event, but its Apple Watch series and iPads are earning rave reviews at a time when non-face-to-face communication and fitness are being emphasized because of the COVID-19 pandemic. The new Apple Watch Series 6 will be available from $399. It can monitor blood oxygen right from your wrist and give the user an overall picture of their heart and lung health.
The new health sensor in Series 6 shines red and infrared light onto your wrist and measures the amount of light reflected back. Advanced algorithms use this data to calculate the color of your blood, which indicates the amount of oxygen present.
Apple's new iPad Air, featuring a 10.9-inch display, will be available in the U.S. starting next month, retailing from $599. Apple says the device A14 Bionic chip gives it a massive boost in performance.
So the iPad Air with the A14 is probably the biggest announcement from this, because it brings the whole concept of processing power that realistically had only been in something like high-level laptops and desktops to something as small as an iPad.
The new 10.2-inch 8th generation iPad is equipped with a 40% faster CPU and provides twice as much graphics power. Also being released in the U.S. in October, it will retail from $329 for regular consumers and $299 for customers in the education sector. Apple also rolled out a new virtual fitness service and a bundle of all its subscriptions to cater to customers working at home during the pandemic. Kim Jae-hee, Arirang News.
Good morning. Have an umbrella handy. Autumn rain is in store across the country. The rain we saw earlier in the day is tapering off, but will pick up again from lunchtime. Those of us in the central region will see showers along with thunder and lightning into early tomorrow, though. And Jeju will receive up to 80 millimeters into Thursday, while the south coast could see around 50 millimeters. Other regions will get 5 to 40 millimeters of rainfall. And with the rain, temperatures will drop a couple notches today. Afternoon readings will be in the mid-20s, ranging from 25 to 28 degrees Celsius in most parts of the country. Those of you in the southern parts of the country will have another band of rain tomorrow and through early Friday, while the capital will have sunny skies by Friday. Then the whole country will have fine autumn weather this weekend. That's Korea for you, and here's a look at the weather conditions around the world.
Now that's a wrap for us at the hour on Arirang News. We'll be back with more of the day's headlines at noon Korea time, so stay tuned. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.
Behind Korea's successful COVID-19 response were thousands of volunteers working behind the scenes. For the past 5 months, more than 66,000 volunteers have come together to help those in need. More than 2.3